I like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called Aileen Wuornos' American Boogeywoman. It's loosely based on a true story. Spoiler alert, let's just get it. So we started with this guy doing an interview with Aileen, who was apparently locked up. Now, the day after the interview, she's supposed to be getting lethal injection. Basically, she's getting a death sentence after this. So they know about her killing 7 people between 1989 and 1990, but they want to know something new, a story that wasn't been told before. So she's going to give them a story about when she was younger, when she was married to a Commodore, basically like a president of a yacht club. So we start off with this area in Florida back in 1976. She's smashing this random dude in a truck. We're just going to call him Peter. After he ends up giving her the business, she ends up robbing him for his money. After she kicked him in his face when he was trying to do other stuff and knocked out some of his teeth. After that, she's back to walking around. She goes towards the beach. She ends up meeting this girl named Jennifer, and she wants to celebrate the rest of her peoples. This guy named Mitch trying to put the moves on her and whatnot, but he's doing it on some chauvinistic pig status. But she don't play that shit. She whipped his ass. That's what you get. Got you out here looking stupid. So apparently after that, Jenny wants to get to know her, and Aileen really ain't got no place to go. So Jenny invites her to come live with her. They get high and drunk. Aileen talks about she was born in Michigan, and Jennifer ended up falling asleep. Next day, Aileen takes a shower, but she can't find her clothes, so she's sitting around in her bathrobe. She ends up finding the bathrobe. She goes downstairs and finds Jenny cooking breakfast. Down there chilling with Jenny and her dad. Who's her dad? Motherfucking Jigsaw. He goes by Lewis in this movie, but we all know who he is. We all know his face. Later on, Jennifer and her boyfriend comes back home. And what do they find when they go upstairs? Aileen out here giving Lewis the business. Jennifer lets you have anything you want. Why you have to go after the old man? Go after people's fathers and whatnot. Next thing you know, they end up getting married. Jennifer can't take this shit, so she's gonna go live in a pool house. Then they get back down to business. Later on, while Lewis is asleep, Aileen ends up taking his wallet, taking a truck in the driveway, and ends up going to this bar. She drinks a couple shots with this dude, and they go around back to sniff some blow. He getting too touchy-feely, she ends up stabbing him with a rusty screwdriver. A couple people end up pulling her off. Then out of the blue, here comes Peter. He wants some payback on Aileen, but before that can happen, the cops roll up. They end up locking up Aileen. Lewis is pissed off because he ended up having to bail her out, but she's trying to make amends, because she's been poor all her life. She ain't used to the rich life. Meanwhile, what the heck is Jennifer plotting? So basically, a happy couple about to go out on a boat, but Lewis invited everybody aboard, including Jennifer and her boyfriend, and this clown Mitch again. So it feels like everybody's trying to be cordial until Aileen has to go to the bathroom in the lower deck. Mitch goes down there on this bullshit again, and she gotta show him who's boss once again. And his clown ass ended up pissing on himself. Jennifer comes down the deck, makes sure everything's okay. But Aileen's thinking to herself, maybe Jennifer planned this shit. Mainly because the rest of the family don't like her anyway, especially after her getting married to Lewis. But then Jenny tries to make it up to her and invites Aileen to go shopping. But then when they go shopping, then the store manager starts looking down on her like she ain't got money to buy this shit. You profiling? What the heck is wrong with you? And of course Aileen don't take that shit falling down. Then she takes it out on Jennifer, saying you shouldn't have brought me to this fancy spot in the first place. You knew they was gonna look down on me. While that's going down, who the heck is spying on him in the car? You just hear this Darth Vader breathing all of a sudden. So Jennifer's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. Next thing you know, Jennifer wakes up out of her sleep, goes to her father's study room because she sees the light on, peeping around the corner. And we find Aileen over here forging checks, stealing money for like $5,000. So after Aileen leaves, Jennifer finds out what the fuck she was doing. But then Aileen comes back and catches her in the act. Why she ain't do nothing to her right then and there? She ends up going back upstairs and going to bed. Next day, Jennifer goes to see a friend of the family, and she finds out why Aileen didn't do anything. Come to find out, all Lewis's assets and transfers, bank accounts, all his statements were turned over to Aileen. And on top of that, took Jennifer's name off the will. Now, he was able to find some past dirt on Aileen, convictions and all this stuff, but unfortunately, it's not enough evidence to do anything with. But he lets her have spare copies of it. Nevertheless, he goes by the house to confront Aileen. So he hits her with all this so-called evidence to take her to jail, but like we said before, he don't have enough. So she tells him to get the fuck out the house. He offers her $10,000 just to get the fuck out of here. He'll sell her the divorce papers and all that stuff. She's like, really? You gonna buy me off with a measly 10 grand? My husband's worth millions. Then they get to a scuffle, they got beef. She ends up getting choked out, but what he don't know is she's digging in a compartment and she finds a gun. Shoots him in the side, done deal, dead. You wasn't prepared for that shit? Then all of a sudden, Mitch comes out of nowhere and finds everything. At this point, you know she been waiting to kill this nigga. She gets him duff, Mitch done deal, dead as shit. Later on, she's chilling by the pool. Somebody anonymous knocked on the door and gave her a letter. On the envelope, it tells her a hotel and a meeting spot to meet up at a certain time. Inside the envelope, it has pictures of her discarded bodies. Who the heck was taking pictures of her? So she goes over to the hotel, busts in the room, and she hears somebody in the bathroom. But who is it? So remember I said somebody was watching her earlier, was breathing like Darth Vader? Turns out it was her brother Keith. He's on a respirator. Turns out he's actually got cancer. He just wanted to see how his sister was doing. She's doing real well. Turns out he's turning his life over to God. He starts talking about his past, about his dad stealing stuff from him. Then it turns to some incest shit. Then out of the blue, she pushes him in the bed and smothers him with a pillow. Now you're thinking to yourself, the guy's on a respirator, he can't breathe, she's smothering him with a pillow, he's done deal dead as shit, right? But no, that wasn't enough. Not for Aileen. She ends up shooting him in his head. Then the journalist cuts her off, saying we heard in the news report that he actually did die of cancer. So what part of that story is true, and what part of it isn't? Well, anyway, she ends up taking his life insurance plan and getting the fuck out of there. Then she goes to another spot to get some more money. She buys some fancy clothes from that spot that Jennifer took her to. Yeah, she had the money for the clothes. You can't say nothing. Meanwhile, Jennifer and her boyfriend looking up the evidence, and they don't think she came here just for her dad. They think she came for somebody else. So they start doing some digging, and they end up going to this diner. But they didn't go to this diner by chance. Turns out they were looking for this lady, who happens to be Aileen's mother, her real mother. So she tells a story about how Aileen left the house when she was 12 years old. She was abused and raped by her grandparents or something like that. She tells them she never met her real dad. Her real dad was in jail because of crimes against children. Think what you will on that. And they found out he ended up hanging himself in jail. The mom basically told her that Aileen is a liar. She's got paranoid delusions of the real world. She takes what she wants and then she kills you after that. That's what her mom said. Then Aileen gets back to the house. When she gets in there, she finds Lewis in the study. And he's been catching her red-handed. So the thing is, she closed up some accounts and took all the money out of it. But Lewis already knew what was going down. He moved most of his money in different accounts. The money she took was basically chump change to him. Basically, he wants her out of the house. He's had enough. This shit's taking his cane, he tries to run. But Lewis ain't getting nowhere. Eileen's at the top of the steps. And she smacks him all the way down the steps. Look at the slow motion fall, look at that. So we thought he was done deal dead at this point. Jenny and their mans get back to the house. They find Lewis laying on the floor, he's fucked up. Eileen's coming back down the steps. Notice how she doesn't have the cane in her hand, right? This guy right here, he ends up picking up the cane and smacking her with it. And they try to carry Lewis out. Apparently he ain't dead, they gonna take him to the hospital. Jennifer's gonna go back in the house and handle Aileen, who's starting to wake up. All of a sudden Jennifer's back in the house, but there's no sign of Aileen. How the hell she get outside? What the hell is this ring around the rosy? Anyway, she gets back inside. And what the heck is Jennifer doing? Jennifer's over the damn pole, pushes her in the water. Aileen says, help me, I can't swim. Now why would you help her if you pushed her in the goddamn water? Anyway, she tries to help her out, and guess what happens? Take a guess what happens. She ended up pulling her in the water and she tried to drown her ass. We thought she was successful, Jennifer done deal daddy shit, just seeing her floating and whatnot. But when Aileen left, all of a sudden, yeah, she's just floating. All of a sudden she just comes back to life. I'm like, really? No Heimlich maneuver, no CPR, none of that shit. She just gets the fuck back up, right? So now they both in the boat. Apparently Aileen was trying to get in the boat to escape. So Eileen's finally about to shoot Jennifer. All of a sudden Lewis comes out of nowhere, hits a lever, and knocks her ass right into the water. Justice served. But wait a minute, if he's there, saving his daughter, where the fuck is her boyfriend at? He was supposed to take her to the hospital. So apparently after all this, Aileen didn't even die, she just floated up the river. Her life insurance money wasn't a whole lot, so after that ran out, she went back to doing what she do. Hitchhiking and prostitute. She gets to this one truck, and out of all people, happens to be fucking Peter again. He knocked her ass out, and that's basically why her teeth look the way they do. So the journalist is basically questioning her whole story. He's trying to figure out what parts are true and what parts aren't. She's like, why the fuck would I make this stuff up? Afterwards, the guard take her away. Next day comes, and she ends up getting a death sentence. The end. What we did find out was that her marriage to Lewis only lasted 9 weeks. Lewis ended up dying of natural causes at the age of 93. Obviously, he never spoke of Aileen again after the divorce. And as we told you at the beginning, she murdered like 7 people between 1989 and 1990. And she became known as America's most infamous female serial killer. Yeah, execution took place October 9th, 2002. And it was done by lethal injection. So who knows, maybe 70% of the story is true, maybe all of it's true. One thing we do know, she's definitely a certifiable serial killer. The stories about her brother is kind of sketchy, but do your research and go look up the real Aileen. Aileen Wuornos, American Boogeywoman on Netflix. Check it out. Like, subscribe, do all you know, time this with these all easy, Mr. Big, you got a slogan.